They say your graduation day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life. The day you finally close one chapter and open another. The day your family celebrates you. But for me, it was the day everything changed. Standing there in my cap and gown, diploma in hand, I watched my mother tell me it was time to leave. My stepfather stood behind her with his arms crossed. And my stepsister? She smiled from the window like she'd won something. I was 18, about to be on my own, with nothing but a suitcase and some savings in my pocket. They thought that was the end of my story. They were wrong. My name is Evelyn. And this is how I went from starting with almost nothing to building a life they never expected. Let me take you back 5 years before that day. Back when I still believed in happy families. I was 13 when my mom remarried. My real dad had passed away from an illness when I was 9. And for 4 years it was just me and Mom. We were a team. She worked 2 jobs, I helped around the house, and we made it work. Then Richard came into the picture. At first I was hopeful. Mom seemed happy again. She smiled more, laughed more, and Richard seemed decent. He had this charming way about him. Always knew what to say. Always brought small gifts. And he came with a daughter, Victoria. She was my age, blonde, popular, and everything I wasn't. But Mom kept saying we'd be sisters now. A real family. I wanted to believe it so badly. The wedding was small but beautiful. I wore a lavender dress. Victoria was involved in the ceremony even though we were both 13. And when they said I do, I thought maybe, just maybe, this was our second chance at happiness. The first few months were okay. Richard was polite. Victoria mostly kept to herself, but that was fine. We lived in Richard's house now, a big 2-story place in a nice neighborhood. My new school was better. I had my own room. But slowly, things started to shift. It started small. Little things I told myself didn't matter. Victoria would borrow my clothes without asking and return them damaged. When I mentioned it to Mom, she'd say, "Evelyn, she's your sister now. Sisters share." Richard would make comments at dinner. "Evelyn, maybe watch your portions. Victoria needs to stay fit for cheerleading." I was perfectly healthy. But the message was clear. Victoria was the priority. Mom started working longer hours at Richard's company. He'd given her a job in his business, which seemed great at first. But it meant she was never home. And when she was exhausted. I started feeling invisible in my own home. Victoria got a new laptop for school. I asked for one too since we both needed it for assignments. Richard said, "We can't afford 2 right now, Evelyn. Just share with Victoria." But 2 weeks later, Victoria got a new phone. Top of the line. When I brought it up, Richard looked at me coldly. "Victoria represents this family at school. She needs to look presentable. You understand, don't you?" I didn't. But I nodded. Because what else could I do? High school should have been a fresh start. Instead, it became challenging. Victoria was a cheerleader, popular, well-liked by everyone. Everyone knew her. And everyone knew I was her stepsister. The one who didn't quite fit in. She made sure of that. In the hallways, she'd walk past me like I didn't exist. When people asked if we were related, she'd say, "Stepsister." Barely. I tried to make my own friends. Join clubs. I loved writing, so I joined the school newspaper. For a while, that was my escape. I could pour everything into my articles, my stories. But even that got complicated. Junior year, I wrote an article that got selected for a regional competition. It was about resilience, about losing a parent and finding strength. It was personal. It was real. And it won. I was so proud. For the first time in years, I felt like I mattered. The local newspaper wanted to interview me. The school wanted to feature me in their newsletter. I came home that day full of excitement. I found Mom in the kitchen and told her everything. She smiled, hugged me, said she was proud. But then Richard came home. And Victoria. When Victoria heard about my award, her expression changed. She didn't say anything at dinner, but I could feel the tension. That night, I heard them talking downstairs. Richard's voice carried. "This is not ideal, honey. Victoria's been working hard on her college applications. And now Evelyn's getting all this attention? How do you think that makes Victoria feel?" Mom's voice was softer. uncertain. But Richard, Evelyn earned this. I can't take it away from her. I'm not saying take it away. I'm saying keep it low-key. Don't make a big deal out of it. Victoria's future is important here. I felt disappointed. The next day, Mom told me the newspaper interview was postponed indefinitely. She said I needed to be considerate of Victoria's feelings and not overshadow her during such an important time. I'll never forget the look on her face when she said it. She couldn't even meet my eyes. That's when I realized I wasn't truly part of this family. I was just there. Senior year was supposed to be my transition year. One more year, then college, then independence. I worked really hard. Straight A's. Extra shifts at my part-time job at the local diner. I saved every penny I earned. I applied to scholarships. I applied to colleges across the state. I didn't tell anyone. Not even Mom. Because I knew if Richard found out, he'd find a way to complicate it. Victoria, meanwhile, was living her best life. Prom queen. Homecoming queen. Accepted to 3 universities. Richard threw her a celebration when her first acceptance letter came in. When my acceptance letter arrived, I kept it private. Full scholarship to a state university 3 hours away. Journalism major. It was everything I'd dreamed of. I just had to make it to graduation. But of course, Victoria had other plans. 2 weeks before graduation, she accidentally spilled coffee on my laptop. The one I'd saved for months to buy. All my college documents, my essays, my portfolio gone. I was devastated. I asked Mom if she could help me get it repaired. She said, "Evelyn, it was an accident. Victoria feels bad. Can't you just use the school computers?" That's when I stopped expecting anything from her. Graduation day finally came. I woke up early, ironed my gown, pinned my cap perfectly. I'd worked so hard for this. For years of persevering in a house where I didn't belong. But I made it. The ceremony was beautiful. I walked across that stage, shook the principal's hand, and felt, for just a moment, free. Mom and Richard were in the audience. Victoria sat between them, looking at her phone. After the ceremony, I found them outside. I was smiling, hopeful. Maybe today they'd finally be proud of me. Richard looked at me and said, "Congratulations, Evelyn. Now we need to have a conversation." We drove home in silence. I sat in the back, still in my cap and gown, holding my diploma. Something felt off. The air was heavy. Mom wouldn't look at me. When we got home, Richard told me to sit in the living room. Mom stood by the window. Victoria leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, with a slight smile. Richard cleared his throat. "Evelyn, you're 18 now. An adult. And we think it's time you learn to stand on your own." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said slowly, "it's time for you to move out and become independent." The room started spinning. "Move out?" I repeated. "Today?" "Yes, today. We've already packed your belongings." He pointed to 2 suitcases by the door. "You're an adult now. You need to learn responsibility. We've provided for you for 5 years. That's been our contribution." I looked at Mom. "Mom, you agree with this?" She finally looked at me. Her eyes showed emotion, but her voice was steady. "Evelyn, Richard's right. You need to learn to be independent. This will help you grow." "Help me grow?" I was trembling now. "You're asking me to leave on my graduation day?" Victoria spoke up. "Oh, come on, Evelyn. Don't be so dramatic. You'll figure it out." I turned to her. "This was your idea, wasn't it?" She shrugged. "I just mentioned to Daddy that I needed more space. My room's too small. And yours is bigger. So," she smiled. "Thanks for understanding." I couldn't process it. "Mom, please, reconsider this." But she turned away. Richard handed me an envelope. "Here's $500. That should help you get started. Now we'd appreciate it if you collected your things." $500. For 18 years. I looked at my mother one last time. The woman who used to braid my hair. Who used to read me bedtime stories. Who promised she'd always protect me. She turned away. I picked up my suitcases and walked out the door. It closed behind me. And I heard the lock turn. I sat outside that house for a while, just staring at the door. waiting for it to open, waiting for Mom to come out and say it was all a misunderstanding. She never did. Finally, I picked up my suitcases and started walking. I didn't know exactly where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there. I called my best friend Maya. She was the only real friend I had. When I told her what happened, she was upset. She asked her parents if I could stay with them. They said no. They were moving out of state in a week and couldn't accommodate another person. I called my aunt, my mom's sister. She said she couldn't get involved in family matters. I was truly on my own. That night I stayed in my car. A used Honda Civic I'd bought with my diner money. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I parked in a grocery store parking lot and let myself feel everything. The next morning, I counted my money. $500 from Richard. $43 of my own. $543 to start my life. I couldn't afford an apartment. First month, last month, deposit. It was impossible. So I made a plan. I'd keep working at the diner. I'd save every penny. I'd figure out how to accept my scholarship and start college in the fall. Y de surviva. The next 3 months were the hardest of my life. I lived in my car. I showered at the gym using a basic membership. I ate inexpensive meals. I worked double shifts at the diner. Some nights, I parked outside the library and used their Wi-Fi to fill out more scholarship applications. I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to give up. The other waitresses at the diner started to notice I was struggling. One of them, Linda, an older woman with kind eyes, pulled me aside one day. "Honey, are you all right? You look exhausted." I broke down, told her everything. She didn't judge me. She didn't pity me. She just hugged me and said, "You're stronger than you know." Linda let me use her address for mail. She brought me meals from home. She became a mother figure I desperately needed. Slowly, I started to rebuild. I got a second job at a bookstore. I moved into a tiny studio apartment with 2 other girls. It was cramped, but it was shelter. And when August came, I packed everything I owned and drove 3 hours to my university. I was finally starting fresh. College was my transformation. For the first time in years, I wasn't living in someone's shadow. I wasn't being compared to Victoria. I wasn't invisible. I threw myself into my studies. Journalism became my passion. I wrote for the college newspaper. I interned at local news stations. I networked. I worked hard. I also started seeing a counselor. I had to process everything I'd been through. The abandonment. The hurt. The confusion. It wasn't easy. Some days I wanted to quit. Some days I wondered if I'd ever feel whole. But I kept going. By my junior year, I'd published articles in major online publications. By senior year, I had a portfolio that impressed people. And when I graduated, I had 3 job offers. I chose the one in the city. A reputable media company. Good salary. Great benefits. I was 22 years old, and I'd built a life from scratch. I hadn't spoken to my mother in 4 years. Not once. Part of me wondered if she ever thought about me. If she regretted what she did. Part of me had moved on. I was 25 when I got the call. I'd been promoted to senior writer at my company. I had my own apartment. A reliable car. A life I was proud of. I was content. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. "Hello. Evelyn." I froze. I recognized that voice. "It's your Aunt Carol. My mom's sister. The one who wouldn't help me." "What is it?" I asked carefully. "It's your mother. She's in the hospital. She's very ill, Evelyn. Cancer. Advanced stage. The doctors say she doesn't have much time." I felt like I'd been hit. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked quietly. "Because she's asking for you. She wants to see you." I took a breath. Now she wants to see me? After 7 years. I know you're upset. You have every right to be. But Evelyn, she's not doing well. If you don't come now, you'll never get the chance for closure. I ended the call. I sat there for hours thinking. Part of me wanted to ignore it. She'd sent me away. Why should I care? But another part of me, the part that still remembered the mom from before Richard, needed answers. I booked a flight home. Walking into that hospital felt surreal. I hadn't been back to my hometown in 7 years. Everything looked the same, but felt different. I found my mom's room on the 3rd floor. I stood outside the door for 10 minutes, trying to steady my breathing. Finally, I walked in. She was sleeping. She looked so small in that hospital bed. Thin, pale, fragile. This wasn't the strong woman I remembered. I sat down in the chair beside her bed. A few minutes later, her eyes opened. When she saw me, tears immediately filled them. "Evelyn," she whispered. "You came." "I'm here," I said quietly. She reached for my hand. I hesitated, then let her take it. "I'm so sorry," she said softly. "I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I was weak. I let Richard influence me. I chose him over you, and I will regret it forever." I wanted to express so much, to tell her how much she'd hurt me. But looking at her now so ill, I just felt sad. "Why?" I asked. "Why did you let him do that to me?" "I was scared," she whispered. "After your dad passed, I was so scared of being alone. Richard made me feel secure. And I thought I was doing what was best. But I was wrong. I abandoned you when you needed me most. And I'm so sorry." She cried. "I tried to find you. After the 1st year, I tried to reach out. But Richard said you'd be better off without us. And I was too afraid to fight him." "You chose him," I said, my voice breaking. "You chose them over me." "I know. And I'll never forgive myself." We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, I asked, "Where's Richard? Where's Victoria?" Mom's face changed. "Gone. Richard left me 2 years ago. Moved away with someone else. Took most of the money. Victoria barely calls. She's too busy with her own life." I didn't say anything. "I'm alone now," Mom whispered. "Just like I left you." Over the next few days, I visited Mom every day. We talked. Really talked. For the first time in years. She told me everything. How Richard had slowly isolated her from her friends and family. How he'd controlled the finances. How he'd convinced her that asking me to leave was helping me grow up. She told me how Victoria had become difficult, entitled, spoiled, and how when Richard left, Victoria blamed Mom for losing him. "She hasn't visited me once since I got sick," Mom said sadly. "I gave her everything, and she couldn't even be bothered to show up." I should have felt vindicated, but I just felt sad. One afternoon, Aunt Carol came by. She apologized to me too. Said she should have helped me back then. "I was afraid of Richard," she admitted. "He threatened to keep your mom away from the whole family if anyone interfered. I thought I was protecting her. But I failed you. I'm sorry." I accepted her apology. Holding on to anger was exhausting. Then, on the 4th day, something unexpected happened. Victoria showed up. I was sitting with Mom when Victoria walked into the room. She looked different. Older. Tired. Her blonde hair was darker now, pulled back casually. She wasn't wearing makeup. She looked ordinary. When she saw me, she stopped. "Evelyn." "Victoria." She looked at Mom, then back at me. "What are you doing here?" "Visiting my mother," I said calmly. "What about you?" She didn't answer. She walked over to Mom's bedside, avoiding my eyes. "Hey, Mom." "Victoria," Mom said weakly. "I'm glad you came." "Yeah, well." Aunt Carol said it was serious. The room was tense. Finally, Victoria looked at me. "So, how have you been?" I almost smiled. "How have I been?" "Really?" She flinched. "Look, I know we didn't exactly end on good terms. You took over my room the day I left," I said evenly. "You seemed pretty happy about it." "I was young," she said defensively. "I was immature." "You were 18. Same age I was." She looked away. "I know. And I'm sorry." "Okay. I'm sorry." It didn't sound entirely sincere. But I didn't care anymore. Mom spoke up. "Victoria, Evelyn has done so well for herself. She's a writer now. Very successful." Victoria's jaw tightened. "That's great. What about you?" I asked. "What have you been up to?" She hesitated. "I'm figuring things out. I left college after 2 years. Still trying to find my path." I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. I just nodded. Because her struggles weren't my victory. They were just life. Mom passed away 3 weeks later. I was there holding her hand. Victoria wasn't. The funeral was small. Just me, Aunt Carol, a few of Mom's old friends. Richard didn't show up. Victoria sent flowers but didn't attend. Standing at Mom's resting place, I realized something. I'd already processed losing her. 7 years ago, when she closed that door, I'd processed losing the mother I'd known. This was just the final goodbye. After the funeral, Aunt Carol pulled me aside. Your mom left something for you. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter and a check. The letter read, Evelyn, I know I can never make up for what I did to you. I know I failed you as a mother. But I need you to know how proud I am of the woman you've become. You succeeded despite me. You thrived despite me. That takes a strength I never had. I'm leaving you what little I have left. It's not much, but I hope it helps. I love you. I always did. Even when I didn't show it. I'm sorry, Mom. The check was for $50,000. Money from a life insurance policy Richard hadn't known about. I looked at it for a long time. Then I put it in my pocket and walked away. A month after the funeral, I got a call from Victoria. We need to talk, she said. About what? The money. Mom's life insurance. I think we should split it. I paused. Excuse me. I'm her daughter too, Evelyn. I deserve half. You didn't even attend her funeral, I said calmly. That doesn't mean I don't deserve. You deserve what Mom decided to give you, I said. She made her choice clear. That money should be shared, she said loudly. I'm struggling. Evelyn. I have nothing. Then maybe it's time to figure things out on your own, I said. Like I had to. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Victoria. You taught me that. Goodbye. I ended the call. She tried calling back. Texting. Even showed up at my apartment building once. I didn't respond. I didn't engage. She'd made her choices. Now she had to live with them. With the money Mom left me, I did something I'd always dreamed of. I started my own online publication. A platform for voices like mine. Stories of survival. Of resilience. Of people who rebuilt their lives from difficult circumstances. It took off faster than I expected. Within a year, we had hundreds of thousands of readers. Within 2 years, we were profitable. I hired a team. I mentored young writers. I gave opportunities to people who'd been overlooked. I built something meaningful. And for the first time in my life, I felt complete. I was 30 when I ran into Richard. I was at a coffee shop, working on my laptop, when I heard a familiar voice. Evelyn. I looked up. There he was. Older. Grayer. Less imposing somehow. Richard, I said neutrally. Wow. I heard you were doing well. Saw your publication online. Very impressive. Thank you. He stood there awkwardly. Listen, I know things ended badly between us. And I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For how I treated you. You didn't deserve that. I studied him. He looked worn down. His clothes were less polished. His confidence was gone. Why are you really here, Richard? I asked. He hesitated. I was hoping, maybe you'd be willing to help me out. Just a small loan. I'm going through a difficult time. I smiled slightly. You're serious? He looked uncomfortable. Evelyn, please. I made mistakes, but you asked me to leave with $500, I said quietly. I was 18. And you didn't care what happened to me. I know, and now you want me to help you? I closed my laptop. No. Please, Evelyn. I have nowhere else to turn. Then I guess you'll have to figure it out, I said, standing up. Just like I did. I walked out. And I didn't look back. They say success is the best response to doubt. But honestly, success isn't about them anymore. It's about the girl who started with nothing and refused to give up. It's about the young woman who turned pain into purpose. It's about building a life I'm proud of. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to honor the strength it took to survive. Do I still think about that day? The day they asked me to leave? Sometimes. But not with anger anymore. with perspective. Because that day, as difficult as it was, set me free. I learned I didn't need them. I didn't need their approval, their acceptance, their validation. I only needed myself. Victoria reached out one last time a few years ago. She apologized again. Said she was working on herself. Said she understood now how wrong she'd been. I accepted her apology, but I didn't reconnect. Some chapters are meant to stay closed. As for Mom, I forgave her. Not because she deserved it, but because holding on to that pain wasn't helping me grow. She made mistakes. She failed me, but she was also human. And in the end, she did try to make it right. Even if it was too late. Today I'm 32. I run a successful company. I have people who love me. Real family. Chosen family. I mentor young women who've been through what I went through. I share my story to let them know. You can survive difficult times. You can thrive. Your worst day doesn't have to define you. I still drive past that house sometimes. The one where I was asked to leave. It's smaller than I remember. Less significant. And I realize, they don't have power over me anymore. I took it back. My name is Evelyn. And this is how I turned my greatest challenge into my greatest strength. If you're going through something similar, please know, you are not alone. You are stronger than you think. And your story doesn't end when someone gives up on you. It's just beginning. Thank you for listening.